Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast episode number 66. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Book Insight Friday, and we're continuing with the Kids with Guns series. And we're up to Kids with Guns Part 3. And Kids with Guns Part 3, well, it's the changing point and transition of the book series. And if you guys know by now and the things that I've said in the past, anytime I write a 5-book series, Part 3 is the transition book of each series. So whether it's Kids with Guns, The World We Live In, The Struggles and Growth of a Man, you name it, Part 3 is always the transitional stage of any of these book series. So let's get started. So with Kids with Guns Part 3, this is where the trial begins for Matthew and Max, and the city has been waiting a long time for this, right? So I felt like I had to put women in powerful positions, so I decided that the judge and the head juror would be women, right? So that's introducing 2 women into the series. Alyssa is the head judge that is, making sure everything stays together in court, right? So I made sure that there were more women in powerful positions in Part 1 with the head doctor and the surgeon, which is Irene and Jocelyn. Yeah, thank God I can remember names that I wrote in the series. So anyway, establishing those women were imperative to me, which allowed me to write more impactful feelings and emotions in this series. And with Matthew and Max's parents, starting this book again, which, they're starting, in the beginning of this book, their emotions with the upcoming trial was the stepping stone to establishing how the feel of this book would go. So, pretty much, having Matthew and Max's parents, talking about the upcoming trial, it's, bringing up the anticipation of what's to happen and things of that nature. So next was how I was writing the defense attorney and prosecutor in this story. Now, I felt that, not only having them tell their experience of the biggest trials of their careers, but also their previous meetings in the courtroom. So there always has to be a backstory to these characters. It's what makes the story interesting and more intriguing. You can't just, totally be in the present moment. A lot of times I like to kind of backtrack a little bit, do a little backstory, make things a little bit more interesting, and kind of brings out the character a little bit more and what their lives are like, and bringing out more, emotions and feelings, while, reading this book. So, Matthew and Max, well, they share their thoughts and feelings, and you start to learn how they are, complete opposites in their personalities. And I had to write it where you can tell who's the leader, and you can, tell who's the head honcho and who's the more reserved one and who is more of the follower in the pack. Normally, friendships go that way, where one is searching for acceptance and one really just doesn't have a care in the world for others, for what others think of them. They basically just don't give a damn, and they do what they want to do on their own terms when they feel like it, and that's pretty much how it's going to go. And you will see that very quickly. If you read Part 2, you may figure it out then too. But let's just say I wanted to give the both of them different personalities. I didn't want the both of them to be the same or in any sort of way. I just like to challenge myself. You guys know this. Through all of these Book Insight Friday podcasts, I always say that I like to challenge myself with, certain characters and, trying to thread the needle a little bit, right? Push the envelope. So while writing, part 3 of this and, dealing with a trial, I visualized the courtroom, the media frenzy, and, having the news reporter throughout the series as she learns of the truths of this case, which is Brittany. She's a news reporter, and there's a backstory to her also that you guys will learn and find out. Along with that, you're learning of, you know, things that she's experienced in her life, and how she became a news reporter, and her purpose and reason for becoming a news reporter. And this book, like I said, is the transitional part of the series, but this book, starts to put pieces together slowly and progressively, with this case. The imagery of this series was just so important to me, and I try to provide that in every book I write. But Kids with Guns, you really do want that imagery, right? And, you'll also learn of the characters and their testimonials in the court also. And as always, I tend to make, part threes of book series, the heightened part of it, and get you to, really like immerse yourself into it. And, that was the part that I enjoyed the most. Some characters you're going to like, and some characters you're just not going to like them. Normally, part threes of series are normally the longest book in the series. Yes, Kids with Guns Part 3, yes, that was the longest book in the series. It has, the most characters in it. I don't remember number-wise how many characters were in that book. I'm going to say close to 20 characters were in Part 3. And it kind of correlates to how The World We Live In, Part 3, that was the longest book in the series, and it's also the longest book I've written to date. I think it's close to 180 pages. I don't think I'm ever doing that again. Though it's kind of crazy to sit and have to read that, edit, and proofread all of that. Yeah, that's just a lot. But anyway, back to Kids with Guns Part 3. I always, like I said, do research on things, and I backtracked a lot of major trials and cases and things of that nature, and I read articles, and I look at videos and things like that of like what courtrooms are like, and what the media frenzy is like, and things of that nature. So when you're dealing with a school shooting, it's going to become national news and potentially world news. But you definitely know it's going to be national news, and you're going to have a lot of news stations, a lot of different networks and things of that nature. So you're going to have every possible TV station in the region and around the country that's going to be covering that. And, it's very rare that school shootings, you're going to have kids going on trial and tried as adults and things of that nature. So that was something new that I had to, really look forward to in, okay, like, how am I writing this trial, and how am I writing the feelings of the prosecutor, the defense attorney, in Brian and Anthony, and how am I writing Alyssa as the judge, and, how am I, writing, the feelings of Matthew and Max as they sit and go through this trial, and, just a lot of different things. So you're going to experience a myriad of feelings and emotions from various characters, along with the fact that you're going to, learn of Lena and Charles, who are the students who survived the school shooting, and what they're feeling, and Jerry, the school teacher, and Anna, the neighbor, and Peter, the former friend. So you're just, and Lisa, the ex-girlfriend of Max, you're just gonna, really get feelings, thoughts and feelings, and different ones too. It's not anything monotonous or anything that's gonna sound similar or the same. Just think of how many characters I'm writing different thoughts, feelings, emotions, and what they're experiencing and going through. So these are the things that, like I've been continually saying, with my book Insight Fridays with Kids with Guns, you're not getting all of this from news station, broadcast or anything like that. They give you a little blurb, maybe 5 to 7 minutes of an allotted block, because news stations and things of that nature, the way the news works, it's in blocks. It's A block, B block, C block, things of that nature. Look, I went to school for all this stuff, so it's gonna sound a little weird, but I went to school for TV production, so I kind of know the behind the scenes stuff and how cameras work and how scripts work and um, news broadcast. They have color codes and things of that nature, but I not going to go fully in depth into that. That's going to be something that I I tackle a few years down the road when I start to write really nitty gritty stuff about what's going on in this world. But anyway, um, where was I going with this? Yes, okay. So, yeah, I kind of like really know like how a lot of news broadcasts work, and how they go to certain cameras, and how they move their hands and how they verbalize things, and how they say things to get your mind triggered. All kinds of things that go on that if you really like sit and pay attention to how things work, you'll really understand. You'll understand how neuro-linguistic programming and language works also. But that's another thing like that. I can't, fully go into it because I'm focusing on the gun control in America and school shootings and things of that nature. So, like I said, content that I will really delve into down the road. So, Kids with Guns Part 3 was definitely a book that um, was my most important book in the series. Part 1 was the school shooting and what actually happened. Part 2 is reeling in the community and preparing for what's to come with the trial. Part 3 is the trial. And then, well, guess what? Part 4 is next week. And that's what you have to stay tuned for, which is coming next Friday. So, I'm going to end it with that. That's my podcast for today. I thank you guys for listening. Have a good weekend. Be productive. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.